I remember the first festival, real other festival we did was like Poppy Mountain Bluegrass Festival.
Yeah, so when we first started, we're like, oh, hell yeah, let's go. We're going to go sell out, man. Let's do it. But we were taking our gig up there, like easy living, and set up a plastic table, tent, and yeah, we set up, and you're all fired up to sell stuff, and a guy walks up who's our first customer, and I'm like, wow, it's about to happen, man. We're about to sell our first gear face to face. It's game time, man. Watch out, Patagonia. This guy walks up, steals something off the table, and walks away. And I don't think it really set in though. I see him walk away. I looked at you. I'm like, he ain't gonna pay for that, is he?
Welcome to the New Frontier Show. I'm your host, Jared Ravenscraft, joined by my co-host,
Joshua Ravenscraft. And we're sitting down with the trailblazers, the go-getters, and the creators, sharing stories from the journey and lessons learned along the way. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you to our friends at ARH for allowing us to bring you this show for free. Appalachian Regional Healthcare, the healthcare system of Appalachia.
And we're live, coming to you live from Moorhead, Kentucky, the New Frontier Warehouse. I'm Jared Ravenscraft.
And I'm your other co-host, Joshua Ravenscraft. And as Jared said, we're here in Moorhead, Kentucky, recording our first episode of the New Frontier Show. And as we call it around the warehouse, the podcast. And yeah, this is our very first episode. We're really excited to kick this show off, and we felt it was only right that your co-host kicked it off and warmed you guys up to what the show is, who the heck we are, why you should be listening to us, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, really excited to start this. You know, we've been with we started New Frontier 10 years ago, and we listen to podcasts all the time. Always wanted to have a show where we could have friends of the brand on, guests, other entrepreneurs, artists, and swap cool stories and, learn some things from other folks along the way. And because the journey, in whatever path you're on, it's not always the easiest, and it's not always just as seamless as it may seem. Like I know with New Frontier, there's so many crazy stories of, how we got started and how we slowly built up and had setbacks we had. And I think there's a lot, we take away from those real stories along the way with New Frontier. So I'm excited to hear and share those. And, if you're new to New Frontier, welcome. We're glad to have you all.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. This is all new for us, so we're definitely not professional podcast hosts, but I'm sure we'll get the job done. But for those of you all who don't know what New Frontier is an Appalachian-based clothing brand that Jared and I founded back in 2016, and the story is pretty much a bootstrap story, a figure it out and go type of thing. But even to back it up a little bit more, Jared and I were born, we're obviously brothers. There's a 4-year age gap between us, but we were born on a farm in eastern Kentucky in Rowan County. And, growing up on that farm and being from here, we've always loved where we're from. I think through high school and college, I did not, you always wonder if you'll ever leave home or leave eastern Kentucky. And Jared and I, doubled down and stayed here. So local guys, I guess you could say.
Yeah, in this day and age, a lot of people, go to school, get in a career path, and it might take them somewhere else. And a lot of people leave home and where they're from. But, once we started New Frontier, we're blessed to be working, in the brand, and it takes us a lot of places. And, it's always good to have, Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia as like a home base to come back to. But yeah, Josh, you want to kick it off with maybe a little brand backstory, like maybe our version that we maybe haven't got to tell yet?
Yeah, for sure. Jared and I have been interviewed by, different podcasts, regionally, locally. We've told our story. I don't think we've ever got to tell it off the cuff like this, like off the riff how we really want to say it. We've always been teed up to answer a question. But I got a version. Jared, your version's probably a little different. But I
Straight
mean,
from the
man,
horse's mouth.
yeah, man. I remember being in high school, and we were janitors that summer at our local high school. So it was 2016. I was a senior in high school. Jared was a freshman in college. And, that summer I thought, okay, I'm going to graduate high school and it's going to be a wonder summer, baby. Like, I'm going to be free. I'm going to be on the lake. I'm going to be in a Jeep, man. It's going to be great. But then it's like, oh yeah, I need to make some money too. Like I need some gas money and just stuff like that. And I still live with my dad at the time. So yeah, we ended up taking a job at my high school that summer. So graduated. Then I was right back in Round County Senior High School working with Jared as a janitor, which was it was a lot of hard work moving all the stuff around. It was very humbling for me. My friends were all having fun, but they were like, "Josh, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm over at the high school." They're like, "What are you doing there still?"
Yeah.
But we worked that dirty job as a janitor, and I think it hit for Jared and I. We both had this concept of starting a brand that represented, Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia, because we didn't really see the things out there that we thought should be out there. Like the Patagonias weren't resonating with here, the LL Beans, Columbia, like the big brands, which they're fine, but they just never made sense to me being back here and, back home. So I think it hit for us when, that was the moment for me, Jared, and you can
Yeah. So
tell
to
me otherwise.
back it up just a little bit. So in the early days before starting a brand, you know, I was at Morehead State. I just wrapped up my senior year. I played college basketball. You were in high school. We knew we wanted to start a brand. Didn't know how. Didn't even know how to set up an LLC. Had $0. You
Wait,
know,
that's right. You
it
were
was it was ground zero. So we were both seniors, college and high school,
yeah, you
and
weren't a freshman. That's my bad.
so yeah, we wanted to build New Frontier. I remember like I would draw sketches and like my senior class is like just in the side of my notebooks because I always liked to draw and sketch, but never really had any official training or anything like that. But we wanted to make Appalachian gear, wanted to make cool Kentucky gear, and at that time there were no Appalachian brands. Like I'd seen so many Rocky Mountain brands, or like you mentioned, Patagonias, Columbias, but I didn't feel spoken for in the things I wanted in Appalachia, and that was the essence of the spark. And I wanted those things, couldn't find them, and we would draw and sketch. And I remember being at Mom's kitchen table my senior year, making sketches. A lot of them terrible, a lot of them really bad. But I think one or two of those started off as being like our first actual graphic designs, and that's as I graduated and Josh graduated, out of high school, out of college, no money. You got to have a little startup cash if you want to print your first tees or first hats. That's why we took the dirty job to start, because that's really the only thing that was available. I remember I'd interviewed for a couple jobs straight out of college, didn't get any of them. Talk about like dropping back in the pocket and getting sacked. Like when you get out of college and you apply for these cool jobs that you think you'll get, and you do not get them, and you
And
get
your
punched.
friends were probably getting cool jobs too.
Some of them were. I just, at that point in time, did
Dude,
not.
I remember carpooling with you in the Jeep, top doors off. We'd roll up to the high school at 7 a.m. And I think, I mean, I just remember playing Sturgill Simpson, but I was like, we'd go in there and move desks and chairs. And
So,
man,
yeah.
it was pretty
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, so didn't get a job. What's the only thing that was open? It was like a janitor spot for the summer at the high school. And that's not saying that's a bad job to have or anything. It's just all we could find at the time. And you got to do what you got to do in that we were all in at that point of starting New Frontier. And yeah, I remember we doubled down and we started moving desks, cleaning
Okay,
lights.
so that's where it was birthed. That's where it kicked off. Everybody's like, "Where did it start? How did it start?" Okay, it started there. We all know. we started in the dirty job phase, but then we started shifting gears into that summer. It's like, all right, you got to make products, you got to sell things. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Jared. I'm pretty sure we set up in Round County, like our hometown, or in Moorhead, at like maybe a market was our first official kickoff with a plastic table and maybe like an Ozark Trail tent or something.
We had at
Selling.
that point in time when we started, we had like three boxes. We had a box of T-shirts with a Kentucky design I drew. We had a box of Appalachian shirts with a design I drew, and then we had some hats, like a small box of hats, and we had a plastic table set up at that market.
Might I
Made some.
mention those designs that we kicked it off with, which was you, Appalachia, Red River Gorge, Kentucky Land of Tomorrow, were
Yeah,
three bangers that we still that are still in our like greatest hits of designs today. So had you not done those, I don't know if we'd have got such a hot start, but I think it started in a really good spot for us.
yeah, it was cool. I remember that first market. We had a couple sales, and like it was cool to get some confidence early as a brand. Setting up and you sell a couple things. You're like, oh man, people like these. Like we don't
And
suck
then
that bad.
And in the yeah, we don't suck. But like in the meantime, as weeks would go by, like that was just one event. But like on any given day, you could be meeting people at a Shell station to sell hats or sell gear. I remember meeting people at Walmart parking lot, Shell station parking lot. I remember driving to people's homes and dropping off gear. I mean, we had no online store. This was like 20s, what, 16,
This
17.
is this is pre-Amazon. You were dropping off boxes at houses all hours of the night,
I'm
getting
not going to
tech.
name any names, but yeah, man, you'd roll up into neighborhoods and be like, yeah, it was kind of weird walking up to people's homes and dropping off an unbranded package. Nobody knew, but I think it's important to mention too when we first started. Obviously, our name now is New Frontier, but when we started under a different name, which we can say this now because it's over, but at the time it was Easy Living. Like there's like a small group of people who know us as that. Real
There's a sm-
small.
there's a
Real
small
small.
group that knows that first 6 month brand period where it was easy living, and that was the name we came up with. Started there.
But why?
Obviously,
The take the two names had phrases. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like "Take it easy." We like that. We like "Keep on living," like Matthew McConaughey. And we kind of mashed those up
that was the
into
essence
that.
of that one. And then you get a cease and desist on the name like a few months into starting a brand. You think everything's over. Like I remember, talk about having panic attacks. Like you think, oh man, now what are we going to do? Like the plane's really crashing, we can't use this name. But then to your credit, you came up with the name New Frontier, which I really liked, and we
Thanks,
liked in
man.
2016. And correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it inspired by a Donald Fagen song?
For sure. I know we're making light of it now, but at the time of the Easy Living name change, it was catastrophic. I mean, our world was ending. I was embarrassed to go tell people like, "What, you all are changing your name?" We had so much local juice coming out. But I remember, we just hunkered down and used that as an opportunity to reposition ourselves as a name that I think was hindsight a blessing. I'm so happy it happened, but yeah, I remember you made a sheet and we had like, what'd they give us? Like a couple weeks to make a name or a new name. And there was a sheet of paper that had like 1, 2, 3, 4. And on that paper, we hung it up in our office and we said, let's walk by it every day and we'll come up, just look at these names. I think like Ravenscraft Outfitters was on
Oh
there.
God,
There were some weird ones. And then, yeah, for sure. I think at the time I was jamming the Eagles, the band, the Eagles and Steely Dan, and then Donald Fagen's one of the Steely Dan members, and his solo album has a song on it called New Frontier. And man, it's just in that yacht rock vein, and I was jamming to it for whatever reason back then. I'm so glad I was, because I thought, whoa, New Frontier,
it
what a
was a
hell of
cool. It was a cool name. The one that was kind of broad, and
Well,
I think
it was cool. It was kind of broad and also connected to back home. For us, it's like we're in the Daniel Boone National Forest, the frontiersman Daniel Boone himself. I'm like, wow, there's some parallels that I love about this.
so. It's funny how it all worked out with the name, and at the time it seemed like a death sentence to change your brand name. But I think it was a blessing in
So
disguise.
glad it happened.
It's funny when things like that happen. You think your world's going to end, but it actually is. It's better for your future, and it's funny how that works out. But I think the next step of the brand story went to like, okay, we're working out of a garage. We have a few boxes of things. We did one festival. Then it's like, all right, how do we get the word out? How do we sell things? What's the next step? We built an online store and we started doing festivals, like to go out and meet people face to face, which is like these days it's like a rare thing. It's a brand. Like I remember the first festival, a real other festival we did was like Poppy Mountain Bluegrass Festival, a festival we like, but maybe not the best for a new brand to go try to sell things. And I'll let you tell the story. I think it's one of the funny ones when we first started.
Yeah, so when we first started, we're like, "Oh hell yeah, let's go! We're gonna go sell out, man. Let's do it." Poppy Mountain's a very historic bluegrass festival in Morehead, Kentucky. Love it. Our cousin owns it. We grew up there. We love that place. But we were taking our gig up there, like easy living, and set up a plastic table, tent, and yeah, we set up, and you're all fired up to sell stuff, and a guy walks up who's our first customer, and I'm like, wow, it's about to happen, man. We're about to sell our first gear face to face. It's game time, man. Watch out, Patagonia. This guy walks up, steals something off the table, and walks away. And I don't think it really set in though. I see him walk away. I looked at you. I'm like, he ain't gonna pay for that, is he? And you said no. And we just kind of shook our head and we're like, you know what? We're not even gonna
It
stop him.
it was he came. The guy, remember the guy came up. He thought we were giving him away. He just took a hat and walked off. I'm like, we both just stared at each other like, well, daggone,
Well,
and just
Well, we had deer antlers out kind of as decor, and I think people thought we were like some hunting outfitter because they were like more interested in the buck antlers we had there than like any of the clothing we had. And that's I'm like, well, we might have hit a foul ball here on this one.
yeah, chalk it up as a foul. There and that was like a funny one of the first festival moments, and like from then on in the first years of starting the brand, I remember we would pack up a Jeep, pack up a truck, load it up full of gear, tables hanging out, boxes, and drive to Ashland, drive to, Knoxville,
Lexington.
wherever, Lexington, Kentucky.
The night markets really got us off the ground. I remember in 2017, 18, going to Lexington on Friday nights. Most of my friends were partying on Friday nights. Me and you were driving a truck to Lexington, like the Beverly Hillbillies, with like tables and
Literally.
shirts flying out of the back of it. But we would set up at the night market, Manchester Music Hall, and you know what? Like I didn't know how pivotal that was going to be for us, but that kind of got us out of Morehead and into Lexington, into Louisville. Kind of got us seen. A lot of people came in that we would have never met.
Got a few eyes, and then from there, then we were able to, like, you make a few sales and you're able to order new products and make a few other things, and those were pivotal. And like pivotal, I think character building moments for me. You get humbled real early. You think you're going to be super busy. The first festival, somebody steals something, then you hustle, you jump on the interstate, you drive to all these other night markets, and you start selling a few things. And it's a real grind. It's not like you just start something, you just start a brand and boom, you're busy immediately. Our story is a little different. New Frontier, we had to grind at all these festivals. It seemed like for a couple years before our
Oh,
online
for
business
sure.
started taking off.
For sure. We had to be boots on the ground. We were trying to be busy. I'm like, please, let's be busy. So we were like making ourselves busy, like West Virginia, Lexington. But yeah, boots on the ground. I can imagine it's like a musician, like an artist starting out. If you want to go for it, you got to go play gigs. And like we were out there gigging, but in a business way, I guess.
In a
trying to get the
different way.
brand- In a different way. But yeah, and really like a really big moment that I remember, Jared, that I think gave us a lot of confidence and gave other people confidence. Like, oh, I guess we'll go buy something from them boys now.
I guess
Is
those hats don't suck.
Yeah, I guess we'll check them out. That cute little thing they're doing. Oh my gosh! But like Channing Tatum in was it 2017? He put out a new movie and he was coming through our neck of the woods.
Talk about like chances of chances. Like, what are the odds of an actor, an actor like Channing Tatum coming through your town and like getting a hold of your gear? He was promoting the movie Logan's Lucky, like about like a NASCAR driver or something like that. And he came to our buddy's place right next to our warehouse, Harold White Lumber, to tour their lumber yard. And I remember some of the people from there came here and got some gear to give to him. And on this day, Josh and I were like going out of town. We were on a flight, phones on airplane mode. So our friends had come here and got him a hat or two, and then he uploads a picture with it, with our first like New Frontier
And
hat.
it blows up. It blows
Blew up.
Our phones were, yeah, it was, social media was going nuts. Like, oh my God, did y'all see Channing Tatum? I thought we were getting punked. I'm like, Channing Tatum in our hat, man. And this was before AI. This was before Chat GPT. Like, this was legit.
You get that many notifications, you're like, oh God, something bad's happened.
Yeah, I was like, here we go again. But that was
a cool moment to like just get some street cred, early on.
Street cred.
Like, and it took a couple years to even get to that point to like people like, oh hey, those guys are from Moorhead, those guys from Appalachia, that's cool. Like they make some cool gear. You got to have it's not like there's a ton of influencers around here, so like that was a big first moment, honestly, for New Frontier.
That was a big moment. That's like pushing the big stone, and it starts rolling and getting momentum. And I remember that momentum rolled into like 2018. We opened a storefront, our flagship store on Main Street in Moorhead. Like that place, that was a big moment for us because prior to that, we were just selling out of a garage at the warehouse. So
yeah, we had our online store. It was slowly but surely growing, and had no storefront where people could come into. And at that point in time, the online store wasn't crazy busy, so we were working out of a garage that we had rented at that point. We're working out of a garage, shipping hats, shipping tees, and to open the storefront more, it was a huge moment, like a brick and mortar. That I'm so glad.
To start, Jared, if you remember, we split that storefront with a bike shop that was already there. So it was like half us, half them for like maybe a year. But then we ended up eventually that the whole store was ours, and it's been great and one of the best moves that we made. It's been a staple from people, not just locally, but people coming from Michigan, and it's our favorite place to stop on our road trip. And so many people, from celebrities to just even local folk coming by. It's been a great spot. But then also the momentum, Jared, like from Channing Tatum to the storefront opening in 2018.
And you can't forget, when we opened the shop, Montgomery Gentry, Troy Lee Gentry came in he was a big artist, like in country music. He came by, he gave us a deer head to put in our shop, and that, like the street cred from that, not only is he like a great respected country music artist, but like them coming by, people seeing that, like those two were like two stones that got pushed early on. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that. He came by, did not have to, and put on one of our shirts. He put on one of our shirts, posted a picture, and I was like, wow, this is so cool that he did this.
Yeah,
but
Troy Gentry.
The deer head's still there today. It's in the shop when you go in. If you look
monster.
up, yeah, it's a big buck.
It's a monster.
It actually is a huge buck.
That's not a Kentucky buck. That's an Iowa.
It ain't, is it, bub? It ain't, is it, Bubba? But
no.
So the momentum's rolling, and it's like, okay, this thing's like actually ticking a little bit. We had no press media coverage up until this point. We didn't even know what that meant. We didn't even really think about it. We weren't positioned that way. Like Jared and I aren't guys that are out here like hunting for media coverage. But like like we started getting like the Courier Journal, which is a respected news outlet in Louisville, Kentucky, and then the Herald Leader in Lexington, and like USA Today, Money. They put together this article and wanted to interview us, and I'm literally staring at it. It's in my office, hung up, but it says Appalachian style spreads globally. That story got bundled up about what Jared and I were doing at New Frontier and our mission we're set out on, and they bottled that up and shot it out to these networks. And that thing went, I mean, that was a huge moment because I was like, wow, we are getting blasted in a good way.
That, yeah,
Like
that was
all
gas on
over.
the fire.
I remember there were people sending USA Today pictures, and me and you were like kicked back on it, and they were in airports, all different states, and I'm like, wow, this is a big moment.
Yeah, at that point, I mean, we had made a lot, or I mean, that's kind of like the middle part of the journey. We made a lot more Appalachian gear. We were starting to ship a lot globally, to other states, other countries, and that was such a cool headline. Appalachian style spreads globally. And you talk about putting gas on the fire, like we're here. I mean, Moorhead, Kentucky's not the biggest city in the world. I don't think that's a stretch. But you know, and in Appalachia, there's not a ton of like big, huge towns. It's not like you're in Austin, Texas. You're not in New York City. You're doing things pretty much off the grid as far as clothing and branding goes. And that one really started to pump a lot more online orders, and that's when the online store really started taking off, I feel like. And the next thing with that was like the winning a global trade award. We were shipping to a lot of other countries right after that.
Yeah, and so one, we weren't out hunting for like media and stuff like that, but like two, we definitely weren't out for awards yet. We were just
Not at
getting
all.
started, and we still feel that way today. Like we're just getting started, but like long story short, yeah, we Martha Lane Collins, rest in peace, but she was the first female governor of Kentucky, and she had, she was like the spokesman for the trade award in Kentucky, and there was a lot of businesses. I mean, UPS was involved, and there were some really big companies win awards, and here we are, New Frontier, out of that gate, just a small brand, and we win a local trade award, and so we ended up. I mean, that we had a big night. We took an RV up to Frankfurt and accepted the award and had our friends there. But that was a big moment for us that I thought, okay, like this is real. Like we're actually doing this, and we're shipping outside the United States. I remember at the time, I do think it was to Canada and just a couple countries. But it was still like that was a moment for me. I'm like, okay, this is actually there's a need for this brand, and
This could work.
this could work, and I think we should double down on this because
It,
it's actually
it,
rocking.
and at that point, we were all in anyways. It's not like we had a side gig. We've never had like a side hustle to fuel. We were all in at that point, and that was a moment when you start shipping to other countries when you're like, okay, wait a minute, it's working. It could work, and we could take this Appalachian brand and spread it, further than just Kentucky, which was a big moment.
Well, that's what I said in another podcast a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, just a reminder, there's no plan B. Jared and I, just to be candid, are not trust fund kids or anything. And like, I mean, if we were, that's great, but we weren't, and that's just a story. So this is all we ever had, and it's our first job, other than the brief, dirty job, the janitor job. But like, this has been our only gig from day one, which very fortunate for that. So as we're tracking along, we win that trade award, and more press comes out, more media comes out, and I'm just like, could it get any better? I'm like, this is great, and it was about that time. I think we're right before COVID here, so we ended
Oh
up,
man.
yeah, we partnered, and business is picking up, business is ticking, online stores starting to rock. People are like, all right, Appalachian brand, I'm in. We're partnered with a NASDAQ traded company at this point. We're starting to get our business chops up and get busier, which is good because like you remember when we were talking about like when we first started, we were just begging to get like one order. So
Yeah, yeah. Like at that point, we were just doing tees and hats, and I remember after the trade award, like what you're wearing right now, our flex flannel. It was
yeah,
always a
man.
dream. It was a big dream and a goal to make other products, not just tees and hats like ones we designed. That was the goal from the start. to build an Appalachian brand and make, blue jeans, tech shirts, flannels, other items. And we just started to do that. And I remember we launched like some of our first flannels after we won that trade award that we had designed that were functional, like with that Appalachian spirit of like, being super functional, multi-purpose. Like we just were knocking on the door there when that started. And then I remember COVID hit. Then COVID hits. And
What's that?
what was that? Yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago. I remember we launched those products and then that hits and then you feel like we had to close the shop down. I mean, everybody had to shut down. That's just such a crazy time.
It's definitely a weird time.
I remember we closed the shop. Everything kind of shuts down and you're like, oh man, we kind of just got this dream off the ground a little bit. We were able to buy food. You can put gas in the truck. It just started to kind of work. Then that happens and you think, man, it's over. We're screwed. And things are really, really slow and quiet for several weeks and months, I remember, during COVID. And what do you remember about that?
I don't remember, dude. I got the Moderna shot. No, I mean, yeah, I remember at that time, yeah, it was the shop was shut down. It was odd. And I remember we were doing a lot of, we were doing tech gear and like uniforms and like specialty stuff at the time for App Harvest, a greenhouse out the road. So like we were still busy, just not, at NF, like the shop being closed was really weird. I think, but like we used that downtime to our advantage. It's not like we quit working. Like I remember sitting in here and we were designing like tech wares for the greenhouse workers and growers that worked out there. So like that was definitely a unique time. But that's to say we didn't stop working,
Yeah, I think during that time, as things got slow, we started like making masks and donating masks back to like local businesses like the state police post, the hospital here. It was just a crazy time, but we started designing our first tech shorts and things like that are big products for us today. But during that downtime of like, we could have shut down, we could have like
that's when
not
those were
worked.
born. Yeah, tech shirts, tech shorts.
It's funny how that worked out. I mean, now that I think about it, I just remember the world was shut down. There was no cars on the road. Like it was just nothing was going on, and it was during those moments when we started designing like the technical flannel, the functional flannel, like you have on, the tech pants, the tech shorts that are some of my favorite things we make right now. Those ideas were birthed out of that slow time, out of that winter, that forced winter that we were in.
So was a recycled denim.
100%.
Yeah. Recycled denim. I mean, by the way, these are all dream products that we never thought we would. Well, we thought we would get there at some point. They were dream products to make. Like we were just guys making hats and shirts. Anybody can do that. But we wanted to make real brand stuff. We wanted, like Jared said, like the flannels, the denim, like our own products.
And it's not like we went to a design school or had somebody on staff that knew how to make those. I remember during that time, we were measuring up samples, like doing it all by hand. And there was a lot of those first ones were really bad. Like a lot of really bad ones came out.
Oh, there's a sample room in the warehouse that are full of old bones, man. Like these samples are so bad. You wouldn't want to be seen in them.
Yeah, it reminds me of Glenn Fry from the Eagles when he was in the Eagles documentary when he's talking to Jackson Brown, I think, or he was talking to Bob Seger, and he was like, what if I write a bad song? I want to write songs, but what if I write a bad one? He's like, Bob Seger was like, you're going to write a bad song, but there's going to be a good one in there. And I think it took a lot of trying to make those samples and products to find good ones that we like and ones that everyone else liked. And it's kind of wild how all that came about during COVID. Then like post COVID, you get hit with one kind of obviously global tragedy, but like here at home, I remember right after that, right here in Eastern Kentucky, we had a catastrophic flood, like right next door. So many of our top customers and people got washed away in like Breathitt County, Jackson, Kentucky, Beattyville, like a crazy like 7-year flood came through, and like that started off, I think something that hit home for us of like giving back. I think that was like the first time we were like, man, or one of the first times we were like, man, we've got to help our own backyard. And that's like, I think that's a cool purpose of having a brand, is to give back to your local community, to give back to your people. And I remember during that time when the first flood came through, because there's been several, we stepped up and designed a Kentucky Strong or an Appalachia Strong collection. And I remember we were taking trailer loads of water to to Lee County, to Jackson, Kentucky, just load after load. We made that collection to help give back. And you hate for something like that to happen, but when people say like, what's the cool part of having a brand? When people need help in your area and you can step up, I think that's one thing I remember. It was like, I'm glad we're able to give back, and you have a platform to do good. And that was like right after COVID, but I remember that as like a pivotal moment for us to step up and stand out for our backyard.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. I look at those. It's terrible. You had there were numerous floods back to back to back, and then there were tornadoes mixed in, and just catastrophe after catastrophe, which you never
really
ever
crazy.
Yeah, you never want to see those happen. But I'm just glad we were able to help out, whether it was like you said, supplies or donating funds or whatever. And like you said, that's the purpose of being in business, I feel like, and having a brand is being able to help out, big or small. It feels good to help out and to give back.
Yeah, when you talk about like in the start, like Patagonia, Columbia, and those brands didn't really resonate. Like they would come here, do a photo shoot and leave, or they'd come here to an artist, give them a pair of pants or something and leave. But like we're here,
they're just in it for the picture. Like they're just in it. Like to me, anyways, it seems like they just wanted. Obviously, it's sales driven, so like they just want the hype that comes off that. But then, when things happen, you look out your window and they ain't here, man. They're not.
Yeah,
gonna
so
help
like
you.
I was just saying, like you're kind of in those moments when adversity hits your home and your neighbors. In those moments, you're like, this is. We're an Appalachian brand. We're here to help our neighbors, and I remember that being a big moment for us to like step up and help, like making the Appalachia Strong collection, Kentucky Strong, and giving back. I remember taking supplies multiple times to Shelby Valley High School. There, like you mentioned, there have been several of those crazy floods that just hit Eastern Kentucky, an area that's already, under duress, and like places that need help, people that need help. So
To be honest,
yeah.
I saw the media coming out and I knew it was bad. But when we drove down there and like had the U-Haul trailer full of like supplies, seeing it is a totally different thing. They had Shelby Valley School turn into a fulfillment center for like supplies, and I was like, whoa. Like when you get up these hollers in Eastern Kentucky, there are actually people obviously who live there. So like, and there's families, there's great people. And when I was like, wow, some of them are just totally destroyed. And I couldn't imagine that. And it just made us, it like reaffirmed like, okay, this is really good helping them out, even if it's in a small way,
Even if it's in a small way and like spreading the word. I think that's what's great too about, I think, where we're from here in Eastern Kentucky and in Appalachia. It's a community. If you and I went to like East Tennessee or Western North Carolina, it's Appalachia. You feel like those people speak your language, and just like here in Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia too, So I feel like, along the brand story, like that's a very pivotal moment of like doubling down and helping your community, and that's who we are, and that's what we're about at New Frontier. We consider ourselves as Appalachia's brand. So in those moments, you got to step up and lend a helping hand to your neighbor.
Yeah, and like you said, and I heard somebody say it the other day, but like when we first started, I'm so glad it's being talked about now. Like, but Appalachia was never, nobody would dare put it on any clothing, like the name, or like talk about it in a positive way, except like we were, I feel like the first ones around that were doing it to start. And now you see others, which it's good, like it's fine. But I was just thinking back to your point, like, man, when we first started, that's why we did, because nobody was doing it. And it was almost something that people were kind of embarrassed by, but we weren't embarrassed by it. We were empowered by it.
I wanted to see it.
We thought it was cool. We thought it was cool. We thought it was great. And that was some extra motivation for us. But to your point, I think a lot of people saw the give back too that were still on the fence maybe about us, and like, okay, this brand actually does care. They actually, they're good folks, good values, and they give back, which is important. And that was great. And we'll always be there in the future if other things come up too. But that was really fulfilling. I know it was for you too.
Yeah, and then after that, another one of those floods, Chris Stapleton and Dwight Yoakam and some others teamed up to do a concert to give back. And how did that go? That story?
Kentucky Rising. Yeah, so I mean, it was really cool. The Kentucky Rising concert at Rep Arena was, designed to give back to flood victims in Eastern Kentucky, and we were just honored to be a small part of that. We worked through, I think it was Chris Stapleton's team, but to do Kentucky Rising hats and some designs and merchandise that gives back. The concert was big. I think it gave back like $2 million to flood victims, and we did some apparel stuff on it. And again, super, super fulfilling and super cool to be able to do that. Because without the brand, I mean, I'm sure we would still give back, but I don't know. I think it's cool to put your money where your mouth is, and when times like that come up, to be like, hey, we're here to help out.
100%.
Kind of like you got your back, for the whole reason, like, oh, you all are Appalachia's brand, you're Kentucky's brand, all this stuff. Like, okay, when stuff happens, like, we're here, and it's a sure thing you can count on.
Being boots on the ground, and to, like you mentioned, Chris Stapleton, I know another cool moment for me was Chris's bass players, JT Cure. JT Cure was him and Jesse Wells were like the first two people when we were working at the garage that we sent our first hats and T-shirts to.
Miles Miller, I think.
Miles Miller.
Yeah.
We love music. We're Kentucky boys. And like, I knew JT and Jesse, just speaking on those two, they went to Morehead State. They had some ties to where we're from. And those were two of like the first, if you want to say, just influencers or people that we looked up to send gear to. And I remember that when we sent it to them, they were super cool. They wore it, they rocked it. And I know that meant a lot for me, something we designed. Nobody knew who we were. They didn't have to wear it, but they did. And they've been cool to this day. Guys that had ties to, Morehead State and Appalachia. Both of them are from Eastern Kentucky. But we got the chance down the road, like a year or two ago, to work with JT Cure. He's from Elkhorn City, Grammy-nominated bass player. We designed a corduroy bass hat, which was his idea, and we gave back the proceeds to Outlaw State of Con, which is Chris and Morgan Stapleton's charity, that they run. But it was just cool to...
And that's still going on today. Like, we still do that. It's an ongoing thing.
Mm-hmm. That was just cool. Like, I remember, like, you're talking about Chris, but like JT, to reach out and to do a custom collab and design with him, which was really one of the first collabs we ever did. I think that started to kick off this, like where we're at today, doing collabs with other businesses and artists. We did that with JT then, and it was still selling today. I see him all the time, but that was really cool of him to reach out and reach out to us to help design, because he could go through Philson or anybody, being plugged into the community he's in. But
yeah, no doubt.
That's a cool brand moment for me that I remember.
Yeah. And now, a word from our sponsors. L81, the official soft drink of the New Frontier Show. And I've got to say, I'm enjoying a nice, cold, refreshing Diet L8 myself right at this very moment. Thank you to all the folks at L81. Back to the show. Yeah, I know we really appreciate those artists and being on a global scale, wearing a local brand. It means a lot. Even if it's not us, those guys are always like helping out small local businesses, and that just shows you that they're the real deal, you know. And they definitely
The
didn't
real
forget
McCoy.
definitely didn't forget about home. But around that time, I got an email. We got an email to the New Frontier email.
Just you. You got the email.
Just me, and I thought it was fake because when I read it, I was like, surely to God, this is not Shark Tank. Well, actually, they reached out. Shark Tank reached out to us once, and I think it was like 2023, and I disregarded it. I'm like, well, this is
Thought
one.
it was fake.
One, this is fake, and two, not interested.
No thanks.
And then 2024 came around and like doubled down on it. Was like, hey, like again, and I'm like, I don't know, must have just caught me at the right time because normally I would just kind of archive that one and move on. But I was like, you know what? What's the quote? F around and find out. I was like, let's try to F around and find out. Is this person real? I honestly just wanted to get on a phone call and see what's up. And long story short, it was real. They liked us a lot. We made it through all the rounds. 2024.
Yeah,
You about to say something?
I was just saying it was for, at that point in time, it was because we had launched our first denim products. We launched our circular denim, which is a whole crazy story in of itself, but like we worked to build towards making blue jeans, denim tops, denim jackets, and the denim was sustainable, like recycled denim. Great idea, great concept that we still have today, and we're still designing and rolling with it.
Yeah, the mills and the manufacturing processes that we used is very intentional, and it is literally deemed some of the most sustainable denim in the world.
Yep.
So like that was a huge moment. We had the governor of Kentucky come in to launch the product. But yeah, I guess that got Shark Tank interested.
Yeah, that was it.
And so yeah, that's a good point. Good to mention. But anyways, yeah, I made it through the rounds. I think this is just a cool moment along the journey. I mean, Jared and I were standing in front of Mark Cuban, Mr. Wonderful, the whole Shark Tank cast pitching.
Or as you talk about, I mean, just like as you talk about in this episode, like episode 1, talking about kind of the journey of New Frontier, where we started, where we went, to be called by Shark Tank, hey, that's epic.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up, guys? But then B, like, we had a great product, recycled denim. That concept. You and I, like, we weren't really looking for investment.
No,
we never had any.
No.
And we're just like, maybe this could be some cool gas on the fire. So that's why we did it. And
I just saw it as a good chance to represent home, because a lot of companies that go on are from God knows where. But I thought it would be cool to have a Eastern Kentucky company on the tank, just for vibes. I guess.
I mean, I remember reading the Shark Tank book when we first started the business. Like, watched it all the time. Just getting ideas. I know you did too, and just wild that they would ever call and reach out. And like you said, representing home. I don't ever see any companies from Appalachia or necessarily Kentucky on there, and that was a big motivator of like, we always want to represent,
And
not in a cocky way, but like, hey, we're all not hillbillies.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie, man. Walking right, so for those familiar with the show, like it's like Jared and I were standing there, and it's like they're counting it down to the doors open, walking down that tunnel, and I remember looking at you. I'm like, I'm not going to cuss, but I'm like, let's effing go. And I remember
let's
giving you knuckles. And we were walking in that tunnel like some bad dudes. We were,
it's crazy to think that happened, and like flew us out there or a hotel. Like, holy crap, it's happening. I've never been to California.
You're out in L.A. and you're there on this dream, and that was cool. Yeah, like the palm trees and the warm air of the hotel. I mean, I was like, wow. Yeah, I mean,
the vegetation. Yeah, to see then you walk in the studio, you see the New Frontier denim billboards, and they're like, "Holy crap, this is like the show I watch."
You got all the producers giving you knuckles, like, guys, it's so good to see you here, see you in person. And I'm
They
like,
called it, and they called us J and J. Like, it
J and
wasn't.
J. So we're what? Oh, it's the guys. This is crazy. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, walking in
So,
there, you talking about being nervous. I mean, or having nerves. Whoa. Part of
and
me was
after
nervous, but then the other part was like really excited. I was like, this
we
is
had
pretty sick.
rehearsed it. I'd rehearsed that more than I had ever. That pitch that we did, I rehearsed it more than anything I'd ever said in my life. I know you did too. Like we would say it like on the phone or working out, leading up to, just to
Hi,
try to really.
Sharks. I'm Joshua.
And I'm Jarrett. Yeah,
We're not gonna go there, but yeah, it's embedded in our brains.
it's seared in my brain. But that was cool, just as like a bit like a show you grew up watching, to have the opportunity to go out, them reach out to you multiple times. So we're like, this is cool. But we didn't end up doing a deal. It did not end up airing. I don't know why. That was a bummer, but like, I don't know. It just like, as someone as I mean, personally, it feels like an underdog, being from Appalachia, being from Kentucky. It's like, okay, you know what? Like, you you don't, it doesn't air, you don't like, no deal, which we weren't really wanting to do a deal. It was just about getting the brand out there, getting the denim concept out there.
Oh yeah, Kendra Scott was on there, was on the panel. But like, and it's the whole thing is not because we did bad. We nailed the pitch. We did everything great. Mark Cuban said we had a great business. Everybody, Kendra Scott loved our accent when we first started. Like it was just really good confidence building moments. And Mr. Wonderful asked me for our sales numbers. I hit them 2016 to current. Didn't miss a beat. They were impressed. Um,
I
and
think
what
that the reasons that they want you to be going there and be like crazy and be like really TV, and me and you were just like dialed in on the details and the
Which
business.
is good. Which is good. I mean, I didn't want to go
And
on there and look like
I wasn't.
you
Yeah,
know.
I was, and I think what they wanted maybe was us to go in there and be like some hillbillies or
I think they
be
wanted us to
be
screw up or
goofy,
something. Yeah.
and just wasn't going to do that. wasn't going to go there. You know,
But I knew it was a win when after we flew back home, like we stayed another day in LA and then we saw our friend Jeffrey and Jennifer, our friends that live out there. They're from Moorhead or from Moorhead and Louisville, but we flew back home and the weeks went by. There were cameramen, they had, on set they have multiple. They have cameramen, electricians, technicians. They were reaching out to our email saying your all's pitch was one of the greatest pitches we'd ever seen, and like they were sending us denim to Kentucky to recycle, and I was like, you guys really think so? Like, did we do
yeah,
good?
that
And
was
I
cool.
just thought that was so cool that some of the cameramen and people there were just really impressed by it. And didn't we ship the guy who shuttled us over some
We shipped a
jeans?
bunch of gear. All those people, like we sent them some of the hats and other items we make. But like that not airing and stuff. I mean, it is what it is. But it was a cool
But
experience. And if anything, like two things. One thing, I'll never be nervous to talk to anybody ever again.
that's facts.
you're standing there looking down the barrel, pitching to Mark Cuban, throwing fastballs. I won't ever be nervous again, and I tell myself that anywhere I go. Like, just remember that moment. And two, I just remember it like after it happened and afterwards. You know, you're not supposed someone from Eastern Kentucky, Appalachia. You're not supposed to be there necessarily. Pitching a business. We're not tycoons that went to Harvard or have this big degree, but it was cool to represent, and it threw a log on the fire for me to like, you're gonna doubt me, you're gonna not think we can do it. I'll show you. So I still keep that back there, that little nugget of like motivation, and
Hey,
you never know what can happen.
it was fun though. I appreciate him for
Hey, I
appreciate
appreciate you.
it. Thanks for taking us out there. It was fun. Good experience. But what were we at, Sony? I remember checking my map and going, "Oh my God, dude, this is where they film everything." Like,
We were the last ones to go on that day, and we just sat in this trailer all dang day, like
bro, we
drinking
sit
Celsius.
we sat in the green room like rotting. I didn't eat any food. I was
No
like, God,
food, just energy
nothing.
drinks.
Oh my gosh, I've got I've got the sign somewhere.
But like that as a brand moment, that was a cool like step along the way, and like obviously moved past that. But like you know, yeah,
Yeah, I'm not going to show that actually. I don't know if we can. Um, But yeah, it was a big confidence moment, and then after that, you get into 24, 5, 6. Here we are. 25 was our greatest sales year that we've had, and you talk like another. Oh my gosh, dude, we didn't even talk about REI. Huge moment.
I think that's a great next step. Is like as we kind of wrap this, like for people that don't know the backstory of like the brand progression, is like at this point in time, like last year, we just started really getting into wholesale. REI is the biggest one. Like that was huge. One of the biggest outdoor retailers in America. Into REI, into Mass General Store, and wholesale. And we really like launched our wholesale. Just started in like 2025, and we've gotten into like 100 plus wholesalers across America. And that,
You mean this?
that guy right there. So that was a big brand moment along the way. And it's not easy to get there. It's not like you just snap your fingers and they start coming to your door. It's like you had to build your credibility for years and show them that you're a trusted business that can deliver. So that was a cool moment.
Yes. And not just so once REI came knocking, then like right now we're looking at other REI stores, but also so many other businesses and wholesalers across the United States have picked up New Frontier and put it on their shelves. I mean, quite literally in all 50 states, which is crazy to see. So it's just continued momentum, gas on the fire, ups and downs. The downs are really deep, but then there's also great times after a down. So it's like, it's kind of like the law of averages. I feel like, through our story so far, like every down or something you think, oh my God, this is catastrophic. There's always an uptick. And
Yeah. Anytime something like that happens, whatever adversity hits, for us, I know that, we're not the type to like hang our heads or tuck our tails. Like we just go back to work, come back to the office where we're at now and think like, what's the next step? So, there have been some downs, coming off of like COVID and setbacks. And then, you double down, you launch the denim wholesale, just keep it moving.
keep it rolling. Yeah, things are rocking and rolling. And sorry for anybody who knows a lot of this story and has just listened to like 50 minutes and been like, guys, what is
Yeah,
this?
as a
I already
vineyard.
know enough. This is for the people who are going to be tuning in fresh and new. But, that's a little bit about New Frontier. Jared and I obviously had to mention that part of it. But what led us to the podcast, and the show, it's like we have came across so many ourselves. We have so many wild stories and come across so many people, whether it's musicians, business owners, or just there's even like current events that come up, and I'm like, man, I wish we could share this story. I wish we could talk about it, or we might meet somebody or have a collab that we want to be like, man, I wish we could get on and tell this story. Jared and I just felt like we need to start a podcast, man, where we can like just start having some of these convos. And I really think it'll like for the listener, I really think that they'll find it just as interesting as we do and take some nuggets and key tips for the everyday from it. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I know like guests we have teed up, excited to share their stories and like maybe how our paths have crossed. And I know a big thing for me is like I always, if I'm listening to a podcast or an audiobook, I'm taking notes, like what nuggets and tools can I take away for our toolkit or just, lessons learned along the way. So that's what I'm excited about.
Oh, I found it. With this probably won't actually make it on, but I'm just going to show it that it's there. Yeah, I got it sitting here. It's real. But yeah, honestly, Jared, I wish we would have had the pod going so long ago. But I'm also thankful we didn't because we've got a lot of experience under our belt. I think it's going to be better content starting now. But we already have a huge guest list built of so many interesting people that you all are going to hear their story and be like, how the hell do they know this person? And and take nuggets away from each episode that comes out.
Yeah. So, as we kind of wrap that New Frontier story chapter, it's like, what are you excited about for the future, like maybe collabs we have coming up or coming down the pike?
Can I say it?
Maybe a little. Go for it. Yeah, let it rip.
All right. All right. See you guys. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, like, what I'm most excited about, and I don't even know, I don't want to say that collab right now. We don't need to say that. Hey, for everybody listening, we got some, like, one in particular very big collab coming out that I'm not going to mention, but you'll see it. When you see it, you'll see it, and you'll be like, wow, that's what he was talking about. I will say a cool collab we can mention is the Creekers band, the bluegrass band, the Creekers. We actually have been doing some merch for them, but it's now available on our website. And it's just, it's cool to partner up with them. Eastern Kentucky band, and they're rocking and rolling. They're busy. They're on tour. Shout out to the Creekers.
Yeah, and that's we talked about how you can giving back to our community, being an Appalachian brand, being there for your neighbor. Another, I don't know, a really cool piece is like being able to collab and design and make products with friends and people, folks like the Creekers. I think real quick you should tell how the Creekers collab started, because we made a lot of awesome gear for them so far. But how did that first Creekers collab start?
All right. So it was about a year ago. Was at the basement in Nashville, and we were at the Commonwealth of Kentucky party, which is basically Kentucky musicians for Americana Fest. But New Frontier was down there. We were setting up and selling gear, and Creekers weren't playing, but they just kind of checking out. Came by. I think they were in town, anyways. But that night, wasn't Nick Jamerson playing?
Nick Jamerson was playing.
We were watching Nicholas Jamerson play at the basement, and I'd heard about the Creekers and stuff, but I never met him. And it was during Nick's show. I think, to be honest, I was getting like kind of hot. For some reason, I needed fresh air. I don't know. I was like, I need some fresh air. So I like slipped. It was shoulder to shoulder, and I slipped to the back door, opened it, and I was like, oh, thank God, fresh air. And I turned. I run smack dab into all the Creekers in a circle with their manager Tim Parks, and I knew Tim from his tourism efforts in Kentucky. So I'm like, hey Tim, I was like, this must be the Creekers. So Tim's telling them, they're probably like thinking, who the hell is this guy?
Who's this idiot?
And it's me, and they're like, they're like putting two and two together. Josh, New Frontier, Appalachian Kentucky Apparel, blah blah blah. So I look, I'm talking to all of them, and then, Ashton, one of the Creekers, was like, man, I tell you what I really want is a hat with a case knife on it. And you know when people are like bull crapping you, and I could tell he was not bull crapping me, he was dead serious. And I said, well, we can do it, man. We should do a collab. Like, let's do it. And right there, he said, oh, hang on, I actually got the knife. And he pulls out a knife, a case knife, and he flips it open. Like, yeah, Jared's already got it mocked up. But he, like, flips it open. It's like, I want it like that on a hat. And I said, I took a picture of it. I said, we can do it. And so, that night ends. We travel back to Morehead, Kentucky that weekend. And it was just a couple weeks. Jared had it mocked up. We had the collab going. And so when you think about, like, artist and brand collabs, that was super natural and authentic.
I think that's the way a lot of our collabs and partnerships have honestly happened. It's just through authentic face-to-face interactions, not like some big email blast or like a LinkedIn chat. Authentic, just having a conversation and like swapping ideas with, like, whether it be the Creekers or Kelsey Walden,
Healing Appalachia, ARH Hospital, L81. I'm looking up at my board because I've got all the collabs.
Well, everybody can see mine. If they can see the video, I'm in my office. I have a big war board back here full of like just notes and collabs.
There's probably two things to mention. One, the minor beep noise that's on yours is because we're next to a lumber yard. So if anybody's listening, here's a little beep. Those are it's the loaders. When they hit reverse, you can hear a beep.
I'm looking at a log yard right now.
Yeah. And then what's the other thing? What are you looking at?
I'm looking at Sawyer White.
Yeah, you're looking at that. But also there's we're getting a new roof on the warehouse because it's been leaking a lot. And as you
Yeah.
know, this is where we house all of our products. So the Amish are putting a new roof on. So
Shout
you
out
might
to the
hear some.
Amish,
Oh, they're great.
my brethren.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like to touch on the collabs, because that's been a big part of like the last 2 years and like step forward of like what's next for New Frontier. Something we hadn't really done before. It's collabing with artists, other businesses, and making cool gear and products like that. So the Creekers is definitely a really cool story of how that happened, and a lot more coming down the pike. I'm sure we'll tee up here. But yeah,
Yeah, and in the future, like these episodes, like when you're on the New Frontier show, it's not going to be mine and Jared's story, just recycled every time. Like this was just kicking the door down and getting some folks that aren't familiar with us, like up to speed about us. But what Jared and I are interested in is obviously be the host, co-host, and host for the guests coming in, and it'll be like it's all about them and their journey, and try to help dig in and get some nuggets out of there. Like Jared, we were talking about like habits, like what are your habits? What do you do to
yeah,
unwind? To
yeah. For
unwind, what kind of food do you like? Just some simple stuff. Because all like for us, I feel like people see like, oh, New Frontier, Josh and Jared, they're just businessmen working all the time, and
just businessmen.
you don't get to hear any personality, I
No.
guess.
Yeah, and I think like one thing I'm very interested to ask is like habits. Whether it's an artist, like what are your daily habits on the road? Like you working out or you reading? So, Josh, if I had to ask you, like, what are your daily habits? Like things you do, part of your routine?
So yeah, I think habits are very important. My little hack right now I've got going, as you know, I mean, you already know all my answers, but sauna, gym, and those two back and forth, and the fire pit. So like I've usually every single day there's typically a campfire at the house or the warehouse. I just like having a fire going and the smell of smoke so that you can go by and smell it. That's not really a habit. That's just something I kind of got in my environment. But I
Yeah,
think it's important to be active. I think like if you're working out, even if you don't work out like crazy, I think just to be active, and have a good diet. Because if you got a good diet and you're active and you're healthy, then you're going to do good business. So
take
like
care of yourself. Yeah,
take care of yourself, and then you got to then you can take care of others. But you got to take care of yourself first. How
got
about
to
you? I'm going to ping pong it back to you.
ping pong. Yeah, definitely. Is like I have to start my day with a workout, whether that's a lift or a run. I try to run about 100 miles a month. Try to lift every other day. Have to do those things. If I don't do those, then my day's over. So I start with that. I'm a big audiobook guy. uh, I'd go back and forth between like biographies of like historical figures and then like like business or like if you want to call it self help. Right now, I'm listening to Simon Sinek's "Leaders Eat Last." I like Simon Sinek, but I'm also trying to finish Grant, Civil War history book. So
Those are like two totally different things.
somewhat, yeah. Both. I mean, they're both leaders, and I like those. I finished. Who was George Washington's book? I really like those. In the evenings if I'm going to go for a walk. Step away from work and New Frontier. I listen to those all the time.
Yeah. Do you think it's important to separate like what you like? Are you locked in at New Frontier all the time, or do you separate? Like, do you have
You've
downtime?
got you've got to have I don't other people who have, in other jobs and other businesses you got to have your own routine, but mine definitely starts with a workout in the evening, winding down with audiobook, just learning something new, or even not even just learning, but just like something different than like business or design or creating. You got to recharge your batteries. And I think I'll say one thing, in the summer and the spring, we've recently started fishing a lot more. Being outside, it just recharges my batteries. And in the fall and the winter, just recently, we hunted a lot growing up, but like deer hunting, being out in the woods, I feel like this fall and winter, it took me mentally to a whole nother level of just I don't know, like I don't know what you want to call it, just stepping away from work for a little bit and like recharging your batteries. I feel like that for me really works, that kind of pattern. And obviously trying to eat healthy, like if we're diving into like what I eat, what I eat every day. It's breakfast, it's probably like protein, and then lunchtime. My lunch every day is about the exact same. It's egg whites, a kale salad with rice, and then on top of the eggs, I'll do some sriracha and ketchup. But that's kind of my routine, and I don't know why, but I'm excited to ask like all of our guests kind of their routine things they eat, like if they're traveling or on the road. Just looking forward to hear those things.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to dive in and ask them all those questions and the stuff that there's easy questions to ask that you would think like, oh yeah, I hear this all the time, but I want to hear the stuff that's not talked about.
Those war stories, but and as we're talking now about like habits and routine, there's not a right or wrong way necessarily. Everybody's is different, but people listening, if there's something you could take away or learn from somebody, to add to your toolkit or your toolbox, excited to share that.
Yeah, and just like people listen to, like there's the show is not scripted, so like there's not some angle behind it really. I think obviously we'll keep it very authentic and like try to make it educational. So by the time you get to the end of the podcast, it ain't gonna just be us just bull crapping the whole time. Like
listen to bull crap each other.
Yeah, there'll be some nuggets you can take away and think, man, those podcasts you listen to, you're like, man, I am so glad I listened to that because I didn't know that if you did this, then this could happen. I listen to other pods all the time and I get inspired by them. It's also helpful to hear too, like even like you might hear somebody's story and think, oh, they're struggling too and they're still fighting, or like, wow, that happened to them too. It's not all like positive all the time. I like hearing that because, to be honest, like, it's just encouraging to hear.
Yeah, 100%. But like, if we're gonna, as we're wrapping this, stay tuned. We got a lot of cool guests coming up. Excited to share those and like things that are coming up for New Frontier. We got a lot of cool summer items coming out. Really, really been excited about our custom camo that we made. I think this year that was one of my most favorite things we worked on. We designed and made ours was our own custom camo patterns, not just one, but several. To get into that space, you can't just like grab some. You can, but like you can't just grab someone's pattern and put it on shirts and hats. We designed our own custom pattern inspired by the Daniel Boone National Forest. The trees that we see, the white oak, sugar maple, those types of patterns and colorways. I could go on, but that one means a lot to me. We have a lot of cool products in that space coming out this summer with our own custom patterns.
And that pattern you could find, obviously, at New Frontier, but you can also find it, I was just looking at your board back there, but at Old Forester, they've got some of we do a lot of stuff with Old Forester bourbon. And by the way, super great partner, but their team is so great. They're great 100%. Folks at Old Forester over in Louisville, but you can find the camo there. We collabed on a lot of merch and apparel for them. So if you're in Louisville at Old Forester, pop in there, and that camo is New Frontier camo, in case you were wondering.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, and like I said, excited to jump into this first season of the New Frontier show, and, we're not pro podcasters or pro interviewers, so we appreciate everybody listening and everybody checking it out. And
thanks for your patience because I'm sure the flow is not what people are probably used to, but
we'll get better. But yeah, everybody stay safe and appreciate you listening.
Thanks, y'all. And thank you for listening to our first pilot episode of the New Frontier Show. And we'll see you right here, same spot, same place with a new guest. Take care, y'all.
Thank you all for listening to this episode of The New Frontier Show. It wouldn't be possible without y'all, so we appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time right here.
And if you enjoyed yourself, please do us a favor and like, subscribe, tell a friend, and we'll see you next time wherever you find your podcast.